What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Dan Cave, and we are here with August tier list. So we've looked at the tier list, and I know a lot of people are saying we've got 2 new Guardians. Where are they going to be on this tier list? And everybody else is probably going to say the same. And well, I don't think that's going to be accurate in this month because we got more changes to Mirrorverse, and we got more changes that are going to move some people around. So I'm going to be talking about those, and I'm not going to bore you guys with too much of the math, but there is a lot of math that goes on in these tier lists, looking at all the different characters, where they're going to be used the most, where they're going to be used the best, what are the best teams, combinations, different characters entering the Mirrorverse are going to move people around on this tier list. A lot happens. So I'm really excited about this, and really the biggest thing that happened to the Mirrorverse this time was the dungeons. So if you guys haven't read the patch notes, if you haven't really noticed, I'm sure you have if you're playing right now, but the dungeons have changed now with having requirements. So now that you have to have required guardians, and you've also got different types of guardians that can't be used on a weekly basis, this has really started making me look at the tier list to understand who are those top 2 or 3 characters of every trait, and making sure they're skewed in this tier list so that you make sure that when you are going in here to invest in characters and guardians, these are going to be the best guardians for your investments, for your moats, for your gold, your gems, and all of that. So with that, guys, this is why I look at this tier list, and I want to make sure that it is free to play friendly, but also making sure that you guys are able to use your resources the most effectively. Now we break it down between the roles so that you guys can understand what are the top 2 or 3 of each role, so that when you're doing those resources, you know who to go after and maybe who to skip. All right. I had to interrupt real quick. Just keep in mind, every guardian in this game, they are good. You can use whoever you want. Just make sure you have synergy with those teams and you'll be good to go. Just keep in mind, the reason for these tier lists is to make sure that you understand the most effective ways to use your resources, because that particular character you might like, it may only be good in one particular mode or only usable in one particular mode. So that's what this is for. And now I'll get you back over to the other Dan. So with that, guys, we're going to jump into the ranged, and we're going to break down the C and D class characters within the range right here. So let's look at C and D tier. And well, we've got a few of the same characters here. We have a little bit of movement, and a lot of the movement here is going to come from those dungeons. Now, not only have we had the dungeons, we've had a couple events come through that really wanted goofball. And well, that's kind of moved a couple people around on this list. Now you're going to see Eve still at the bottom. And again, she's not that bad of a guardian, but the problem she really runs into is there is a lot of high-tech characters in the range class. You're looking at characters like Zerg, Buzz, Tron, Judy. Yes, there's so many that are tech, and this is one of the reasons why Eve is so low, because if you're already investing in those characters, you're just not going to need another. All right, so as we look into B, you're going to see Hades has come up a little bit, and really that's just because of that goofball trait and the fact that he's moved up just a little bit right out of C into B. Now, again, most of these characters, they're going to be okay to use, and I know Hades is one of those characters a little bit hard to get, but don't worry about Hades too much, because you really still want to focus on those S and A tier characters when it comes to these different roles. With that being said, moving up to A, well, we've got the same characters we always have. We have Buzz, we have Tron, and we have Judy. Again, going back to the Eve comment, you can see that all these characters, well, they're all high tech. And when it comes to Buzz, he's got that leader trait as well, which gives him that little bit of an edge when we're looking at the A tier. And well, Buzz is actually still really good. He's great in the leader tower if you don't have some of the other leaders. He does a lot of damage, his stun is great, and that's the reason why he's staying up in A. Now moving into S tier, well, we got the 2 S tier characters, Zerg and Gaston. Now I still think Zerg overall is the better character when it comes to the S class here, but Gaston is very, very great. He does a lot of damage, he can do those wounds, and he's really great to invest in general. So either of these characters can be great choices to use, but overall, I still think Zerg is just going to be a lot better when it comes to the fact that he always 100% roots, and well, he does a lot of damage. So if you're interested in either of these characters, make sure you check out over here I will put a link to my 1-minute videos. I have one for Gaston and Zerg. If you're not sure how to play them, what traits to use, things like that, you can definitely go check that out. All right, so let's head over to the tanks. And well, the tanks are the ones that everybody is super interested in. We have 2 new characters that have joined the Mirrorverse. We have Wally and Simba, and we're going to see where we have put them on this tier list. And honestly, I've really enjoyed these characters. We'll get into those in just a few. So let's start with the C and D, because you know they're not down here, but we did get a little bit of a shakeup down here in the C and the D tier. And well, that's just because Sully has still really made sure to show that he is a good high tech. He is a good leader. He is doing okay down there. And well, Baloo, with all the hope that we had with his refresh, he just seems to continue to fall to the bottom. Just having the fact that there's so many tanks that just do it better. So moving up to B, well, in B, we had a little bit of a shakeup here, but not too much. We had Donald coming down, we had Oogie coming down, and we have Genie just locking down that B slot. So in reality, I really like all of these tanks right here. They're very great in what they do, but with the 2 new ones coming out, you can see they've been bumped down just a little bit, which is going to take us up into A. And you know, as we start to talk some of these things, we talk about those new high-tech characters that are coming in here. And well, not you. We already talked about you the other month. You can go away, Tron. Instead, we're going to be talking about our little buddy Wally. And well, Wally is going to show up right here in the A tier. And Wally's going to knock Baymax down just a little bit. And the only reason that being is, well, they're both high tech and Wally does it just slightly better. If you want a tank that just goes out there, does his thing, and you don't have to worry about him too much, Wally is that tank. He's not really great at any one thing, but he's very good at just making sure he survives. He gets his shields and he can make sure that you can maybe punch up a little bit further than Baymax. Now, Baymax is still exceptional. I love Baymax, but Baymax needs to be controlled most of the battle. You need to make sure he's moving back to your allies. He's pumping up those shields and all that good stuff. And this is where Wally just excels slightly better because, well, you can just set him and forget him. Let him do his thing and he should be good to go. All right, so as we're coming out of A, we're talking about S, and there's 2 Guardians left. That's going to be Simba and Mr. Incredible. So who's taking that top slot? And it's pretty obvious. Mr. Incredible is still going to take that top spot. Bob is so good when it comes to being a tank because really he's not. I mean, you can convince me otherwise, but Bob really is that awesome melee character. He does a lot of damage. He can lead teams with that leadership ability. And well, if you want one of the top teams in the game, he is usually part of it. Now, Simba, on the other hand, he is really good as a tank. He can help you push really far in the way his abilities go. And I'm super excited to be able to show him off in about a week or so. Now, I will caveat, I have not personally unlocked Simba, but I've had several people in the community reach out to me and work with me, several friends that I've played with in multiple games prior to this, and they've let me know their 5-star Simbas, whether they're level 35, 45, or 50, they're pushing well above their power because of Simba and because he can really have that survivability, that lure, and everything that he wants to do in his kit. Now, like I said, I'm super excited. I'm going to be testing him hopefully later this week so that next week we can get our first impressions, our video, our rundown, just like we did with Wally, out to you guys next week. So make sure you keep an eye out on that. But trust me, guys, there's so many people that have unlocked that 4-star and 5-star Simba, and every one of these guys have told me they're S tier. He is the king of the jungle, and he is the one that you want to go with. Now, the one thing and the reason why it's keeping him out of that top spot is his damage is not at the same level as Mr. Incredible, but if you want a tank, he is one of the most solid tanks in the game so far. So when his event comes through, if you really want to invest, he is going to be a great investment. So with that being said, those are 2 new Guardians coming up here. You can see where they are placed, S and A. So just be aware they are very good and they are worth the investment. So if you're looking at spending those orbs, well, you may want to wait till Simba comes around instead of Wally, but definitely try to get them if you can. All right, so moving along over to the supports, let's open them up. So C and D, well, we've got a little bit of movement here, not too much, but we're going to see that Mike, once again, is coming out of that D slot, moving up to C. And we've got Ian, well, he's dropping back down. Mike really got his movement because of Wally, because of Genie. Again, there's lots of people out there running Genie and Mike. They're doing pretty good. I still don't see them being that super in game. And I know there's some confusion on what is early game, mid game, late game, and in game. I hope to have a video out pretty soon. I'll really breaking that down. But essentially, when we're talking about late game, we're talking about the really hard dungeons, going into master, things like that. And well, Genie, he dies just a little too quick there. But with Mike, you can definitely push really far into the campaigns, really far into events, and he's worth it. And because of Wally, it's really making Mike shown, because that is one of the best combos you can put with Wally. So I definitely would give it a shot. If you have Wally, if you got Mike, they're going to do you well. Now going back to Ian real quick, he is going down again to the bottom. And that's just because that late game, that end game, his heal, it just isn't enough, even with a couple little boosts he got with his damage. He's a fine character when you're looking at that, you know, the beginning game, things like that. But once you start to really push, well, Ian's just not going to be what you want him to be. So going over to B, no changes here. We've got Belle, we've got Frank, and we've got Evil Queen. Now, realistically, these guys are so close when it comes to the points, within 0.25 of each other. So you could move them around. Nothing really would change when it comes to here. So going up into A, like I said, no changes whatsoever here. All of these Guardians are amazing. And I will put a little caveat here. I've only got 2 slots in the S tier at the moment. And well, that's why you have Mickey and you have Scrooge right here in A. But like we talked about with the B classes, he's within a point of the S tier. And once we extend this out, we get a few more Guardians in here. That curve will change a little bit more, and maybe he'll find himself up in the S. When it comes to the S tier and kind of opening them up, we got the same 2 that we always have. It is Jack Skellington and a Hero. And I think that Hero just edges them out a little bit. He's on too many teams as the top character. If we look at every single Guardian in the top teams with them, Hero tends to show up on one of those, whether it's the most damage team, the survivability team, he's always there. And this is why he just really edges out Mickey and Scrooge in that S tier. So all in all, if you look at any of these S and A tiers, you're really going to want to invest in them. They're great. All right, so last up, we have the melee class. And let's pick up the melee role here. And let's look at the C and D. So C and D, well, we've got a couple changes here. We've got Woody. I haven't found him on many teams that I want to use. Same thing that we've said before with traits. There's a lot of characters with the exact same traits that Woody has. And well, they're just better than Woody. So he's falling down a couple spots. You can see 3 spots this time to just really be at the bottom of C. We've got Hercules coming up 1 more, because when you look at blade wielders, and if there ever is a dungeon with one of those, you're going to be looking at characters like Mulan and Herc, and that's why they're getting that little bit of a boost into C. Now, I still think Mulan is a great character. Hercules is pretty good, and we're hoping Rift Raids, if we have these kind of one-on-ones with these big, fractured enemies and things like that, the one-on-one damage of a character like Herc or Ursula or any of these other ones like that, because you're usually fighting multiple enemies, they're kind of, going down on the tier list a little bit. But I still love Mulan, her AoE and all of that. If you picked her at the beginning, she's still a great character. But as we see in a little bit, her traits are what's holding her down. She doesn't have a tower, anything like that, but she can still do some pretty good damage. So moving on to B, well, we've got a little bit of a shakeup here as well. We've got Stitch. Well, he's coming up. And Stitch really coming up is because of those goofball like we talked about, as well as some of the other traits. So because of that, Stitch is going to move up 2 spots into the B tier instead of the C. And then we've got Aladdin and Rapunzel kind of moving down a little bit. Now, Aladdin may be a shock, because Aladdin was an S tier for a while, then he moved to A tier, but just like we're seeing, he's kind of moving down and down and down. And well, traits are the reason he's not in any of the towers. But if we got something like Stealthy, if we got something like Blade Wielder, we're going to see the rise of Aladdin come back. He's a fun character to do. He does a lot of damage with all the dashing and things like that, but he is kind of falling down because of those traits. And the dungeons really made a lot of these moves that you're seeing right here in the melee class. All right, so going up into A, we've got Snow White, Minnie, and we've got Anna coming up. So I've said this before with a lot of them. We had 2 different events that needed goofball, and well, that's kind of pushed Anna up a little bit. Now, I expect her to kind of fall right here between A and B. She's very close between her and Aladdin. I really thought that Aladdin would be in front of Anna, but after we ran the numbers, after we really dug into it, because of those traits, Anna just was, slightly better. And when Rift Raid's coming out, if this is anything Titanborn related, we will see Anna being more needed on these teams, and it'll solidify that A slot. But I can really tell that she's right there between A and B, and this is where she's going to end up on this month. Minnie, Snow, they're still locking it down in the A tier. Snow's really good if you're trying to get that royalty tower taken care of. Maybe you don't have Simba. I think Simba is going to take her spot in a lot of those teams in this upcoming couple weeks when Simba gets launched. But she's still pretty good in leader, even though there's several leaders that are better than her, but she's doing okay right there in the A tier. Lastly, we got the S. It's the same 2 S that we have. Now, I think Scar is one of those that he's probably same thing, borderline S and A. Right now, he's staying in the S, and that's just because of all the traits that he has and the fact that every other dungeon, he's a needed character there. So we saw that with Gaston as well. Somehow it doesn't help Baloo whatsoever with him being all the way on the bottom. But if you need your damage dealer, especially with some of these restrictions that are going to be there, you should be able to at least use Scar or Gaston to do your damage, and you should be okay. Now, Ariel's still going to take that top spot when it comes to melee. I really hope that we see some other great guardian that comes out and maybe pushes a lot of this top end around. But as of now, we're still doing really great with Ariel, even after the tweaks that they had. And so I'm really excited to see what we're going to get in the next set of guardians after these tank guardians. But right now, I really like where the tier list is. So if we look at all the stuff that's going on with the tier list, we've got our full tier list right here, and I will have this graphic up on the Discord. So make sure to check it out. And tomorrow I'll post it over in the official Discord and all the other areas that you may want to go in and grab it. But I'm super, super excited about where it ended up, all the different characters, all the different changes. I'm excited to see what's going to happen going into September, I guess, at this point, because there's no telling what kind of guardians, what events, what we may see in August. And yeah, they've surprised us before, so I'm really looking forward to see who's going to come in this next month. But I'm super excited about Simba coming, in the next couple weeks. Now, I appreciate all you guys checking out the tier list. And if you don't mind, hit that sub button below. Leave a comment on who you disagree with. I know there's always these different changes. There's different rankings, things like that. And they always have a problem. They always want to tell me that Baloo, well, he's top tier, things like that. So make sure down below, you tell me what guardian you think should be top tier. And well, we'll go do the research. We'll check it out. We'll make sure that maybe we missed something. I don't know. If we did, we'll definitely take care of it for the September. But I want to hear from you guys. Who are you using right now? Who are your favorite guardians? And yeah, just let me know. Outside of that, guys, right over here, we have our Mirrorverse 101 videos, still adding to that. So if there's any topic you want to see on that, also let me know, or hit me up on Discord. Let me know over there, and we'll get a video together. We have a lot we want to cover. Again, big thanks to Kabam Creator Program letting us test out Wally this past week and being able to see Simba in the upcoming week. So I appreciate it so much, so we can get that content out to you guys. And as always, guys, y'all take it easy.